Welcome to Life Through the Lens of Faith. Thank you so much for joining in on another episode. And I think I'm going to start doing shout outs because I know there's loyal individuals, people who actually message me after each and every episode. I see you and I thank you and I really appreciate you. They don't just message to say, oh, well, I've listened to this episode, but they engage and just quickly mention what they've learned. And I really appreciate that. It's really good to know that the information that's going out on this podcast is helpful to people and applying it as well. Because remember, we're aiming to be better individuals. We're aiming to not just approach life blindly, but we're looking at life through the lens of faith, which is I believe it is a lens that makes us better individuals. We begin to raise better people around us. Our communities become better places. It's not just about you as an individual. That's why I always encourage us to share, and also please follow our social pages. Our Instagram page, it is at Life Through the Lens of Faith. Also, the same handle on Twitter. I've picked up, however, that people are not yet engaging with the actual page for the podcast, and with some questionnaires as well I had put up on my own Instagram account, and I know there's a lot of engagement there because most people are already there and they're my friends there. So I will include my handle for Instagram as well. It is at miss.Quai, Quai. Okay, it's not QWA, but it's QUAI. So it's at miss.Quai. And thank you so much for following. Thank you so much for sharing. Welcome if you're new, and if you're returning, thank you so much once more. A quick recap on last week's episode that was titled Too Young to Settle / Prime Years. We spoke about trying to find out what is the actual age to actually settle down as an individual when it pertains to relationships, romantic relationships, that is. And we discussed a couple of things and how we live in this illusion during our prime years that we'll only start applying or rather practicing good relationship habits or good relationship practices when we reach a certain age. And that's just an illusion, because the prime years are the years that you build. The prime years are where you actually collect a whole lot of things that might even fog or blind your view when it pertains to relationship, when a time needs to come now when you need to actually settle down. And we spoke on the importance of why it is actually good to settle in your to find one individual in your prime years that you're planning on settling with, so that you have something positive to reflect on when you're in your 40s with the same individual that you were with in your prime years. Well, at least I know that's what I want. Okay, so we spoke on that, and that whatever habits that we are picking up, if we don't want to be exclusive with one individual but want to have multiple partners when it pertains to relationships, how that damages us, and how even some individuals now carry hurt from past relationships simply because they did not understand what they wanted in the relationship, and they did not understand what the other party wanted in that relationship. So it's always important to know why you're getting into that relationship with that individual, and also find out if they're on the same page, because two cannot walk together unless they agree. Look, today we're talking about family relationships, and it's already close to 5 minutes. The aim is not to go over 10 minutes with these episodes, because I understand people are busy, and it's just a lot. But this specific episode, we're going to be focusing on family. We're going to be focusing on siblings, and there's no way that we can mention family without mentioning black tax, and it is a touchy subject. And also not mentioning emotional abuse for some, and for others it might even be sexual. But unfortunately, we're not going to touch on that one on this episode. And if you are seeking for help, please seek for help in relevant places. I am not equipped to touch on that, so that one I'm not going to dabble on. But with emotional, I think I have been around individuals or have encountered one or two individuals that have shared their experience. And, that's why I'm able to just touch a little bit on it. I'm not going to dive into it. And I think this was spiked up by a post I saw on Facebook. I think there was a post somebody had, or rather was questioning how, or rather where other individuals get nice parents and stuff, because as far as they're concerned, they do not even want to set a foot in their household. In essence, they were talking about their mom. Okay, I don't think they have a good relationship with him. I mean, there might be many factors in place. And I paused and I was like, whoa, there's people that don't want to go home. I mean, I live in another city. I live far away from home. And because of school and work, I'm not in the province where I was born and raised. So when the years kicked in where I needed to go into a tertiary institution, I moved provinces. So I could not imagine the thought of not wanting to go home. I couldn't relate to that, because home for me is where I recuperate. It's where I, rejuvenate. I want to go home. I want my mom's home cooked meal. I want the love. I want family around me. And I cherish each and every moment that I go home, because I know now that I stay in another city, I cannot just wake up every day and say, well, I want to go see my mom. It's a privilege to still have them in our lives. And I could not comprehend that somebody else out there might feel any other way about their parents. But I do understand we don't have the same experience because of factors that are in place, or because of different reasons. Really, we have different experiences when it pertains to relationships between parents, between family members, between siblings as well, so I'm going to start with finances. Finances are a huge thing. I think I had, I think I was scrolling through my screenshots. Somebody had wrote on their WhatsApp status that, some of us haven't broken free from the keep quiet, you don't know anything situation that used to go on when we were younger in our families. Because of age, you were not allowed to engage in certain matters, and for some it's still the case, but now it's no longer because of age, but it's because you're not financially equipped to have an opinion on certain things around the household. And that really hurts. It really hurts not being able to provide for your family, not being able to provide, to give back to your parents or the people that raised you up in this matter. So it really hurts, and you feel, or you walk around life not wanting or shutting down, or wanting to share your opinions on many other things as well, in the boardroom, in the corporate space. You're socially awkward. You don't want to engage with other individuals. You'd rather stay at home and not engage. But we forget, or rather we overlook the fact that it might have not just started, or it might not just be a personality trait thing. It might be something that started off because, these relationships that we're talking about today have a huge impact on how we turn out to be as adults. Okay, so growing up, you would not be allowed to engage in specific topics because you're young, and now that you're old, you can't engage in specific topics because awuna mali type of a thing, and it really hurts. And I think for others, you are at a point where you are able to afford, but the rate at which everything is now required from you, or you're expected to meet so much needs that are around your household, your family, you can't keep up. That it's starting to stress you out. I don't really have much of that experience, but I think something that I have been taught was to be open, be transparent. I've found in any other type of relationship, however, you get more understanding, or you get to be understood by the parties involved when you are transparent. I'm quite sure there's no way that a parent would blame you for not being able to do something when you clearly explain to them that this is why. or feel unloved because A, B, C, and D can't happen this month because of specific responsibilities, and that comes through transparency. I do know that this might not be the cure for every relationships, for every family relationship out there, but when it comes to black text, I think for the longest as well, people have been in denial or didn't want to show the element of not being able to, or you feel guilty. Sometimes it might not even be your parent that's making you feel guilty, but just the thought of your parent asking for something from you, and you just reflect on how, your parent has raised you, or your parents have raised you. Just the thought of not being able to provide to them when they finally ask for something, it hurts. You feel guilt, that you feel like you owe them, type of a thing. And I think this is a really broad topic, but as much as we're encouraged to respect our parents, we can also be transparent with them. We can also sit them down, make them understand, and I think it would shed a whole lot of a load on our shoulders as young adults. Of course, I did mention that this podcast, I do see the age group that mainly tunes in, and that's why I'm saying, as young adults, we can actually have a talk with our parents, sit down, be transparent. And if that doesn't work, then relationships are not just a one day thing. Not everything is going to change overnight, so it is important to know that as much as you might take the first step of being transparent, it might not work, and you would need to kind of like get things that might aid you, or might help, or might it might be the first step to be transparent. The second step might be to just give them a budget. This is the budget that I'm working on with, specifically with the household, and this is how much I am able to contribute this month. I think that's linked with setting boundaries as well. But those things come into play one step at a time, because you don't want to feel like you're shutting them out as well. I don't have money, you should understand, type of a thing. Being transparent helps in those relationships as well. The second thing, I think, emotional abuse, and I don't think in most households this is intentional. I know my mom is really, growing up, she was really she's very talkative. She's very outspoken with how she feels at that moment. She would shout, and most of the time we wouldn't understand. She wouldn't allow us to do certain things. No, you can't go out after this time. By this time you need to be back home. But when I look back and I reflect how those things have enabled me to become this responsible person, I'm grateful and I'm thankful. As much as I would have not understood at the time, I felt deprived. I felt mad that I can't go engage with my friends in specific events because my mom does not allow me to go to specific things. I'm grateful now that I'm old, that it's not everything that I need to be a part of. I'm happy that I have. She doesn't need to be in the same city for her to rest assured that I will not be found in certain spaces. I will not be found doing something that is detrimental to my health, to myself as an individual. I know that she sleeps peaceful knowing that the teachings that she has given to me when I was young, I still have them. They're embedded in me. And that's why I said earlier on, these relationships have the potential of shaping us. They play a huge role in who we become as adults. I had a conversation with an individual that was telling me that, I don't get offended in whatever situation that happens publicly, or what somebody else says, in any setting. It could be at work, it could be at a social gathering. I don't get offended simply because there's nothing harsh that anybody can say out there that I've not experienced at home. And I paused a little bit and I was like, what do you even mean right now? They were like, no, this individual in my family has said so much hurtful things, or rather, they've said harsh things to me such that I don't really care who else says out there. I'm now strong. I can deal with that. And I applauded them, and I viewed them as an optimistic person, as an optimistic individual, because I do understand not everybody can overcome emotional, damaging words. But I applauded her as well, because it doesn't really help beating yourself, or rather not doing anything because of what somebody else might have said when you were growing up, but instead it is beneficial for you to actually prove them wrong. I think the one famous story of a person that we know, Steve Harvey, he shares his testimony of how he became this great comedian, and he started becoming this famous person that's now on television. And it stemmed out, his passion and his drive were words that were uttered to him by somebody who was rather entrusted to build or shape his view of the world, and that is his teacher. That was his teacher at the time. And he says that when they had asked them in class what they would like to become when they're old, his dream was to be on television. And when he had shared that with that specific individual who was supposed to mold them and shape their view of life and kind of like encourage them to become this person that they are today, that person, I think they weren't equipped, or they didn't see the vision at the time, or they didn't understand what they were entrusted with at the time, such that they inflicted words on Steve Harvey that stuck with him forever. And he could have made a decision to believe the individual, or make a decision of proving them wrong, which I'm grateful that he chose the other way, which is proving the other individual wrong. And that's how, he became this individual. There were negative words that drove him to become this big person. He turned that around. He saw that as an opportunity to, prove them wrong. This does not apply to everything. You cannot prove everyone or people that say things to you wrong. Other people, it might be from a place of concern. It might be from a place of, understanding as well who you are. With relationships, they're very broad, and this episode is long, and we're not even done. But here's what I'm going to say. There's no way that people, especially when it pertains to family relationships, there's no way that our parents would, let me not say there's no way, but rather let me say, I've come to understand that most teachings or most no's that I've received from my family, or specific things that I've learned through their wisdom and through their teachings, I only come to understand that it's from a place of love. Now that I'm old, now that I am having the both perspective of being young and being old, I now have an understanding of why certain things I couldn't indulge in. And I am still, even today, grateful for those teachings, grateful for the wisdom in which I was raised in. And man, oh man, I think this is where I'm gonna round up today's episode. I think we're gonna need to continue next Monday to touch a little bit on this one. I know I said the same thing about the romantic relationships one, but with family it's really broad. We haven't touched on siblings relationships, and I know other people might have been raised differently from how their other siblings were raised from the same household, and that can be emotionally damaging as well. Now that we're old, for others it might not have really caused any difference really. And yeah, this is where we're going to round up. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Life Through the Lens of Faith. My name is Zizipo, and please tune in next week. Please share, please comment, and let's meet again on the next episode.